Shouty Brain.
Hello, my name is Trevor Holland and welcome to Shouty Brain, the podcast from a late diagnosed AuDHD man on a voyage of discovery to find my people in a neurotypical world. I hope everyone's doing very well this week. I'm doing much better today than I was the day that I recorded this episode, so I need to warn everybody. It wasn't a good day for Uncle Trev, I'm afraid. I was very burnt out. And as I said at the beginning, when I first started doing this podcast about 2 months ago now, it was going to be quite warts and all, and there are many a wart. I have good days and bad days, as does everybody, but in a neurodiverse situation, some days I have more energy than others, some days I'm a little bit burnt out, my social battery's a little bit lower. Now, what I didn't want to do was only do the podcast on my good days. I want to do the podcast on all of my days, because I can't predict what my days are going to be like from one day to the next. That's not to say, however, that I didn't have a lovely time during this episode. This week I interviewed Sam Munster, who is the queen of horror hyperfixations. She is herself AuDHD. She is a horror enthusiast who hosts her own podcast, Horror Hyperfixations, which is fantastic. As the name suggests, she is obsessed with all things horror, and she is a fantastic guest, and she loves to talk, which she will attest to. And I love listening to her talk, so that's convenient. The reason I gave that little caveat at the beginning is because listening back, I realised that I was very worn out that day, and maybe I wasn't doing as much of the chatting as I could have done. But luckily for me, Sam did pick up the slack. So it was a bit of a low energy Trevor this week, so my apologies if that is offensive to you. But it was a wonderful chat. Now, as I always say, please do, if you enjoy this podcast, like, subscribe, comment, interact. Best way to get in touch with me is via shoutybrain.com, where you will find links to the YouTube channel and everything else, and actually a link to contact me directly, which I welcome you to do. The podcast, as always, is on video format and on audio format, so whichever one you prefer, please subscribe and leave a review. The video versions are, in my opinion, the better ones when you get a little bit more insight into the conversation, especially this week where there is a cameo from my cat, Sam the Goblin, who is a beautiful little baby. And also, if you're watching the video, you'll get an insight into Sam Munster's house, which is one of the most aesthetically beautiful dwellings I've ever set my eyes upon. So please do enjoy that. Stick around at the end for a little goodbye message, but for now, enjoy Sam Munster. Welcome, Sam Munster, to Shouty Brain.
Hello.
How are you, my friend?
Not too bad, thank you. I've had a very shouty brain today, to be honest, so you did pick a perfect name for your podcast. Very good. But yeah, I'm glad to speak to you now.
Good. So you've had a shouty brain today, have you? Anything in particular?
I just felt very stuck today. I sometimes have days where I just can't do things, and I just kept finding ways to delay myself for what I have to do, until I got to the point where I was like, I am literally too late now to be able to do all the things I need to do. And then I just got stuck. I'm real good at getting stuck in my car, just sitting there. So I drove to work and sat in the car for about half an hour before I decided, actually, I'm going to go home. And then decided, actually, no, I'm going to go treasure hunting in the local reuse centre for some dopamine, and then I'll go home. And dopamine I found.
Oh, good. And what form did that take? Did you find any treasures today?
I did. I found 2 really lovely silver teapots, which I now need to polish up, so that'll be an enjoyable little task. I found some Hornby pottery. I really like Hornby pottery. A couple of bits of gubbins, a really old photo of some random old lady. I don't know who she is, but she's in a nice frame. And what else did I get? I don't remember. I was so excited. Now I've forgotten all the things I got, but good stuff. I got good stuff. Good treasure.
I like going around charity shops and stuff. There's one in town here that's got a specific retro floor. It's a 2-floor shop, and the upstairs bit is all retro vintage shit. And I go in there mainly just for the smell. I love the smell of the old stuff.
Yeah.
And I would just rifle through the books and smell the books.
I
I
also
love
got a
that
book.
crap.
That's what I also got a book about North America, published in 1933.
Oh,
And I've only bought it for
beautiful.
the cover. The cover is absolutely gorgeous. I'll send you a picture when we're done. It's just so lovely. And I just like having these like trinket, as you said about my house. Like I like having trinkets and treasures, and some of them will go on the wall in various rooms of my house.
Yes. Before we go any further, I need to talk to you about your house. Um, I've seen on your TikTok project Paint It Black, painting your front door,
Hmm.
painting your window frames and stuff like that. How much of the inside of your house is black?
Well, the room we're in now, the living room is currently being painted black because I painted it grey to appease my ex-husband, because he said it'd be too dark, and now I'm like, fuck it, I'm painting it black. So that is just gonna be black. My bedroom is black. The spare room is also being painted black, and the stairs and the landing space will also be painted black. So it's like a
Oh,
long process because money and spoons to do it, but gradually get in there. Got black ceilings in places as well, so like my entryway is through there. It would be really dark if it was black, so it's a really dark burgundy, but I painted the ceiling black.
mm.
So we've got black ceilings in some rooms as well.
I'm going to sound like a real old bastard here, but I keep hearing people say spoons and I don't know what it means.
Okay, so the spoon theory is, I think it was originated in like the chronic illness community. And I can imagine in like every day you open the drawer and there's so many spoons in there, and every task takes however many spoons. So having the shower might take 5 spoons, cooking your dinner might take 20 spoons. So by the time you get to the end of the day, you might have used all these spoons up, and all the tasks you need to do in the evening, you haven't got spoons anymore. I don't know where the spoon thing came from. I don't know why the person chose spoons, but a lot of people with like disabilities and chronic illness will call themselves spoonies. And it just sort of assimilated, I think, into like language and culture, but not enough that you knew what it was. But yeah, it's quite an easy thing. Like I've used it to explain to my child when I'm struggling with energy and things, and saying, think of a bowl full of, and I just like marbles as an example because it's easier for them, and just said, I'm taking marbles out all day with the different jobs I'm doing, and then by the time I get to the end of the day, sometimes there's no marbles left. Sometimes there are marbles left by bedtime, but other times there aren't. And they were like, oh, okay. And that was the way they could understand. And I think they were maybe 5 at this point. So it was like a nice, easy way of explaining to people what that sort of theory is. But I think you can use it for neurodivergence as well, because obviously you know how much certain tasks take up of your energy. And one of my favourite phrases that people have sort of jumped onto off the back of the spoon thing is, I've got no spoons left, only knives. And I'm like, yeah, love that. I'm angry now because I'm so tired and you've pushed me so much. I've used all my energy, I've only got stabby knives left. Love that.
No, that's good because I had no idea. And I've heard loads of people say it. And it hadn't got to a point yet where I was embarrassed enough to say, what the fuck are you talking about? But you're that person for me because you just said it that one time that tips me over the edge. So right, I've got to know what this fucking thing's. I've got to know what people are talking about when they say this. So thank you. You have educated me.
Well, the only stupid question is the one you didn't ask. So I always ask questions to a ridiculous and annoying degree. I piss people off by the amount of questions I ask, but I need to know. So just ask.
I ask a lot of questions, mainly clarification questions, because everything's just too vague. It's too vague. Tell me the facts and tell me all of them and quickly before I run out of spoons.
Exactly, there you go. See, the life changed now. Use the phrase spoons confidently.
Yeah. So I love the aesthetic of your house. I'm very pleased that it is spreading out of just that area as well.
My whole house looks like this with just multiple things on the wall everywhere. It is the most, I don't know whether you could say, it probably is AuDHD rather than either of the two. It's the most like AuDHD decorating ever, because I just find all these little things and I'm like, I must have this will make me happy. And then I put it on the wall and I get to look at them all and I'm just like, yes, look at it. And it's definitely like a special interest, like collecting antiques and just weird shit. I've got lots of like little sub collections, like these people here. I love buying photos of old people who are probably dead now and thinking about the life they might have had, and that at some point someone in their family didn't want their portrait anymore and chucked it out, took it to a charity shop, and now they live on my walls and they're part of my family. They're called Hector and Mildred. I don't know what their real names are, but I call them Hector and Mildred.
I love that kind of stuff. I really do. I always think about the history of stuff. I'm a bit obsessed with the passage of time in general, right?
I don't like it. I'm terrified of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
Not
talking about the
scared of
passage.
dying, but like just the existential crisis of being alive and like the ever terrifying landscape of things, horrors.
Well, I like looking backwards, though. I'm not, so when I say passions of time, I'm not talking about looking into the future necessarily, if that's what you mean. But I'm a bit obsessed with decay and stuff like that. You know, like abandoned places and
love that.
stuff that have been marked by the passage of time, and you kind of peel away when something's been reclaimed by nature or something. You know, you get stuff like that, and you just go back and you think about what it was like before, and you find an old knackered building, and then you look up what that building used to be and when it was in all its glory, and you can imagine the stories that place has got to tell. And sometimes I really feel like a place can really have such history in its bricks. You know, it's just I feel the vibes of places and stuff like that. So I'm really into the past in general. But one of the things that stands out about you that drew my attention to you is your horror hyperfixations. So I would like to know what it is, if you can sum it up, about horror that fascinates you so much.
I don't know. It does seem to be a really common thing within the neurodivergent community. There's a lot of horror fans, or if you look at the horror community, there's a lot of neurodivergent people. I've always been drawn to like the darker things. I used to meet Goosebumps when I was little. I used to read horrible histories because I wanted to read all the disgusting stuff. Always been fascinated by the macabre, the dark, and anything that people would say that's scary, that's gross, I'd be like, well, I automatically like that now because something in my brain said you need to like the things that other people don't like. And I think there was some underlying thing of like knowing I didn't feel right and knowing I didn't feel like everybody else. And when I'd hear things about what I felt like to be a person and a human, I always thought, it doesn't feel like that for me. So I just think I gravitated towards things that other people didn't like because I didn't feel like other people. And as I've got older and spent more time like looking at horror neurodivergence, I see a lot of parallels in the fact that, you know, most horror is written and created by outsiders. The act of liking horror generally is like an outsider thing because it's not what everyone watches. It's not what everybody likes. People are horrified that you can sit and watch some of the shit that we watched. They're horrified that you can put that on to go to bed and fall asleep. And as I've been learning through like podcasting and chatting to different people about their relationship to neurodivergence and horror, having little revelations of things like, well, Michael Myers, for example, he's an outsider. He's always on the outskirts of everything. He's just watching. He's observing. He literally wears a mask. He cannot go around and do all his little killings without his mask on. And I think the reason that a lot of us gravitate towards horror and love the villains is because we see ourselves in them. Not that we're going to go around stabbing and murdering, but that sort of quiet recluse. They're always the weird kid that had an accident, or the quiet guy who lives in the mountains. There's always some outsider element, and I think a lot of us gravitate towards that. But also just the controlled environment to experience things. I can watch horror films and have a lovely time. You put me in a haunted house in a theme park and I am absolutely having a fucking melt. I can't cope with it in real life because I know I haven't got any control over it. In my house, I can sit in my little net. I've got my snacks, I've got my cats. If I don't like the film, I can turn it off. if I'm in the middle of a haunted house, I can't get out, and I have an absolute melt, and I hate it. So I think it's that controlled way of experiencing fear, stress, anxiety, and I realised quite early in my very, very long therapy journey over the years that when I had a lot of anxiety, horror was a good way of expelling some of that, because I could sit down and put a film on, be scared or stressed for 2 hours, turn it off and go, oh, I feel a bit better now. And none of that anxiety and stress is about anything in my life. So I found that a comfort. And over the years, I really been drawn to horror as a source of comfort. I did have a really strange period where everything upset me. I was so frightened and so scared, and I would cry watching things. I just couldn't. Loads of my favourite films, I couldn't do it anymore. And I got rid of loads of my horror collection because I was like, I can't do this anymore. Just gone. And then I sort of quietly crept back to it, and now it's all I watch. Now it's all I think about. Like, horror is my personality at this point. It's quite sad. But I also don't care, because if people don't want to talk to me about horror and they want to talk to me about something boring, I'll make my excuses and leave and be like, I'm not interested in that, Sandra, sorry, bye. And I'll do something else. But yeah, that came to the podcast about it as well, and because I spend most of my day with headphones on listening to podcasts because I don't want to listen to my own shouty brain. I will listen to something. Music has too much of an emotional engagement with me. Like, my brain will pick on a lyric in a song and I'll be like, oh, that reminds me of the time of this, and then I'm crying and I'm upset. So I don't listen to music very often in podcasts. And they're all special interest related. They're all horror or neurodiversity. And I just thought, well, these lovely people talking for hours about horror films are keeping me slightly sane. I love to talk about horror and things. Maybe I could do this. And if even one person listens, and I'm that voice to help keep them a little bit sane when they're trying to walk around Tesco and not have an absolute meltdown, or trying to drown out their co-workers in main fucking chatting about absolute bullshit, like watching Love Island, and you're like, shut up. They can just listen to me talk to myself for hours on end. And I've been doing it for over 2.5 years now. I'm very proud of myself.
I was about to ask you how long you've been doing it. 2.5 years, that's great.
Yeah.
Because we were talking the other day on Instagram about the statistic about how many, and I think you're right, it's about 80% of podcasts never get past 10 episodes. And
episode 10.
This is episode 10. We are going to do it as long as it gets released, which I don't know, something could happen, but it will, I'm sure. But yeah, man, no, that's really good. I was thinking when I was getting ready for this episode, I was thinking about horror and my own relationship with it, and why I find it so fascinating, and whether that's through a neurodiverse lens or not. But I think it's twofold for me. One is I want to feel something visceral. And I love that. I love tension and unnerving, kind of uncomfortable. Like, I've got an incredibly sensitive cringe reflex, so I will steer away from anything that's uncomfortable from an awkwardness point of view. But I really like to. But I really like sitting. I like to sit in the uncomfortable kind of impending doom feeling. But also I'm fascinated because I am an observer. I'm fascinated by the extremes of human behavior. So watching a horror movie, whether it's probably this is less relevant to supernatural kind of horror, but more kind of human studies, serial killers, stuff like that. It's like these are the things that people do to each other, and these are the way that people feel when they're in extreme situations. So the extreme rage or the extreme fear, the terror, the horror, all of those feelings that I'm fascinated by watching other people feel, albeit in a fictional capacity. But I think that's what it is. I think it's seeing extreme behavior and then also feeling some of it myself, you know. That's what fascinates me. As well as the actual horror itself, you're a collector, right, of physical media.
Yes.
So I'd like to talk to you about that, because you're part of the Physical Media is Not Dead movement.
Absolutely.
And I have to say, I do. It makes me feel a bit old, but I do still love a bit of physical media. You know, I don't read that much, but I would much rather read a physical book than read off a Kindle, for example. But what is it that fascinates you about collecting physical media, and especially when it comes to special editions of releases with extras and lots of little trinkets and bits that come with stuff? You know, what is it about that?
If I love a film, actually, no, that's not true. Because even if I don't love a film, I want to do this. But I just like to learn. I like to learn. I am so in awe of people who can write and direct and make special effects and do sound and stuff. And I want to know how they did everything in the film. More so if I love it. But if I don't like a film, I still love watching the special features, because I want to know, okay, well, why did they go for this thing that I didn't like? Why did they make this decision? So I will watch 3 different director's commentary tracks on a movie just so I can learn what went into it, because I might have a newfound appreciation of the film. Go, well, I didn't enjoy it, but I'm impressed by how X, Y, and Z is done. So that's a big part of it, and it's similar to like listening to podcasts. I'm listening to people chat about something. I'm learning about the, you know, maybe it's the messaging in a film, whether they're talking about a subgenre. I'm learning stuff about film and special features. I'm learning stuff about film, which I just find fascinating. And I always have done. I've always loved seeing like behind the scenes, and in the olden days when sometimes you get something off like a VHS and it'd be so exciting. Or you could see like behind the scenes pictures in like a book maybe, because you wouldn't really see stuff on the TV as much. And I know it's nice to be like, ooh, movie magic, but it is magic how people can turn all these different things into something that we can watch and enjoy. And owning things physically, like my house, it is something that I own, that I can hold and I can look at and go, I love this. Whether it's because of the packaging, I've got like 2 or 3 versions of films on DVD, because I'm like, ooh, I haven't got this front cover, I love this. And never watched it, it's on my shelf, they're just there. But sometimes I stand in front of my shelf and I feel so happy just looking at my Blu-rays and my DVDs and my videos. Loads of them I haven't watched, because I can't be bothered to get up off the sofa, open the cupboard, take something off, and then, you know, the whole step. Throwing the disc in, getting the controller. I can't be bothered with all that. So a good proportion of the stuff I have I actually don't watch. But it doesn't matter, because I bought it and it brings me immense joy. And that's what we could went a charity shop earlier. I'm forever like this with my neck, because I'm looking at the DVDs on the shelves, and if I find VHS, you'll hear like a little squeal, because I found some videos. So excited to go and look through the videos now. And yeah, it's just, I think I enjoyed the dopamine of finding physical media in the wild. Just the same as like finding all the weird crap on the wall. Like, it's very exciting trying to find something and then you find it. Really stupid example, but I got in my head that I had to buy a copy of Wrong Turn 2 on DVD in a shop. I could have ordered it on eBay, Amazon, any of these places, but I had to find it in the wild. It was an adventure. And it took me about 2 years to find a copy in a charity shop. And I burst into tears. I was so excited. So I was like, I finally found one. And I could watch the film I've been waiting to see. And since I've bought every copy of Wrong Turn 2 that I find, which isn't that many, but every time I find it now, I have that same excitement that I had the first time. I don't cry every time, but I'm just like, yes, I have another copy. I have 4 copies on myself. I do not need 4 copies of Wrong Turn 2. But having 4 copies of Wrong Turn 2 makes me so excited, because not only did I find one, I found 4 copies, and that's cool.
It's the seeking something out and then getting it. I relate to that, having multiple versions of the same thing, because it's not even about the thing. It's almost, for me, it almost feels like it's your prize, it's your trophy for the the act of hunting it. And now you've got it, and it's there on your shelf, and you may never touch it, you may never watch it, but it's there. You have it in your hands, it's in your home, and it's like, yeah, I fucking found you, mate. And it's great. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean by that.
With streaming services and streaming platforms and digital downloads and things, you can have those things taken away at any time. You could pay $14.99 for a digital download of a movie. And if Amazon decides they want to take it off the platform, you lose it. If you spend £15 on a DVD and put it on your shelf, unless someone comes and burgles you, like, no one's taking that from you. You've got that forever. And I have less so. I think people are kind of understanding a little bit more now, especially with like the announcement from Sony recently that they're not doing physical games anymore. People will really be upset. I think people are getting it a bit more now about, you know, the tangibility of being able to hold something, and you've got that in your hands and you can keep it safe forever. Whereas if everything's in the cloud and the cloud explodes, you could have spent hundreds and thousands of pounds on games, films, books. It's all gone. You don't actually own any of it. And I like to be able to hold and own things.
I kind of sit on both sides of that. I own quite a lot of physical media, but I mainly stream and download now. I mean, I've got a PS5. It doesn't even have a disc drive in it. So all my games that I play are digital now. I still have some physical games, but I've got to play them on anymore. I like the convenience of it, but I love the tangibility, like you said, because I remember back in the day, you buy a new game, you open the box, and you got the cartridge, you've got the little booklet in it. You'd read the booklet from cover to cover on the bus on your way home from the shop before you've even played the game. I love the stuff that comes with stuff, and that's completely missing now. You know, whether that's DVD extras like you were talking about, whether that's when you buy a video game, you've got the bits that come with it. When you buy an album, you've got the artwork and you've got the notes and the lyrics and all sorts of other stuff in there. Stuff that's just part of the package that you just won't get anymore. So that is sad, but I do like digital shit as well.
I mean, I've got a Kindle. Sometimes you can buy full books you've been meaning to read for 99p. Great. And if I really like it, I'll look out for a copy in a charity shop and I'll pick it up. And then maybe I'll have it on my shelves as well. So like little books and things, I find that quite handy. And I do listen to music digitally. I listen to podcasts digitally, but I also have just when I write, I have a stack of records, proper old records, really old, but I've still got all my CDs from when I first started buying CDs when I was 10. I still got a handful of cassettes. I do have stuff to play them all on, so if I wanted to, I could. And I do it every now and then. I'm like, you know what? I want to put some music on, but I want to listen to it on a record because it's fun and stuff. And there's certain records that when you plop the needle on and you get a little bit of crackle, they just sound infinitely better than they would sticking them on like Spotify or YouTube or wherever, like music streaming platform. I don't want the cleaned up version. I want the record I've got in my collection that is from 1950 something, and God knows how many people have owned and played this record over the years. And it might have some little scratches in it. It might have loads of dust on it. But like I said, the history of things, where's that record been? I especially like it when there's handwritten notes on there of to so-and-so, happy birthday, or John's record. A lot of the random gubbins I buy have handwritten notes on them as well. I've got a plastic that I bought recently that has the date it was completed and the lady's name who made it on the back.
I love that.
And I think she finished it in the 80s, and the anniversary of it is coming up, so I feel like I need to give it a little party. It was the 30th of August she finished it. So I'm like, that's amazing. I've got something that this lady made 40 years ago, I can't do maths. And now it's in my house.
Yeah, yes, it becomes part of its identity. Having, I know what you mean. Is have stuff that's kind of what I was talking about with the passage of time. It's stuff that's got a story attached to it, stuff that's got a history, and you can almost feel that history when you touch it. I love it. It would be remiss of me to not talk about neurodiversity, I suppose, on this podcast. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about your brain.
Oh, God.
Um,
not that thing. Fuck that, guys. Yeah, I hate my brain. We don't have a very good relationship. I struggled with like anxiety and depression and stuff since I was about 16, 17. Finally went to go and see a doctor when I was 18, and they went, cool, you're depressed, but you've got anxiety, here's some meds. So I've been medicated almost consistently. I've had a couple of periods to go in, this really isn't doing anything, and stopping taking them, then going mental and back on them. And I've had therapy from all sorts of different private therapists and work-appointed therapists, NHS counselling, and nothing's ever stuck. One lady did say when I was about 19, 20, she said, oh, you could have ADHD. And I was like, no. Because my only knowledge of ADHD at that time was hyperactive little boys. And she didn't do anything with it. She didn't say, oh, I'll refer you for assessment or here's some information. She just mentioned it casually. And over the years, different mental health practitioners have sort of gone, oh, well, I can't deal with you. You are too complex case. You've probably got bipolar and this and this and this. And I've just gone, okay. And then just being released into the wild with the information that I could have a whole bunch of things wrong with me that I need false psychiatric assessment, and then nothing happens. And I've got to keep going to my doctor going, well, this lady said I need psychiatric assessment and that I might have this thing and this thing, but what do I do now? Like, can you help? And it wasn't until probably around 2020, same as lots of people, we were all spending more time at home, more time on our phones. And I was getting loads of messages in my feed from TikTok and Instagram of people going, I think I'm neurodivergent. And watching these videos of people talking about ADHD and what that will look like in adult females. And I was like, oh shit. This is what's wrong with me. I've spent my entire life going, what the fuck is wrong with me? And people saying to me, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I was like, I think it's this. So I went to see my doctor. There was no waiting list in my area at the time. It was a waiting list to be on a waiting list once I was created. So I had to keep going back and go, any movement with that? Anything happening? And bless him, my GP was a psychiatrist at one point. So he was very knowledgeable, and he was trying to figure out a way of prescribing me medication that would have a similar effect to ADHD meds through a sort of like backdoor method of being like, well, if I prescribe this and this will have a similar effect. But luckily, the service sort of picked it up in the area. They got the funding, they got it going. That was a long wait. I think it took about 2-3 years from the waiting list being activated to actually physically seeing someone and talking to somebody. Because there was just such a backlog, because in my area of South Wales, we didn't have a service. So, like I said, there's a waiting list to be on a waiting list. And in that time, both me and my sister have both gone, yeah, we're a bit... There's nothing quite right here. Like, we've both got ADHD, because I'd spoken to my sister and I was like, hey, I think I might have ADHD. And she was like, I've literally just like 2 days ago had a diagnosis. So she was lucky she had private healthcare. Her workplace just went, okay. She had an appointment with a psychiatrist, and like that, she had her diagnosis. But she was like, that's really weird that you brought that up, because I've literally just got my diagnosis and I have ADHD. So she was like, you absolutely do. You are worse than me. Like, said with love, you are worse than me. You do. So we spoke about that a lot and told my mum, and my mum was like, no, you don't. She was a teacher. So her experience, again, had been hyperactive little boys. And she was like, no, you don't have ADHD. And I was like, I think I do. But it wasn't my news to disclose to my mum that my sister's had a diagnosis. And I was really upset that my mum was so dismissive of me. And it's not her fault. She's been trained in work of how to spot ADHD and what the traits are and things, but she's not being trained for adult women. She's being trained for children. She was a primary school
Mm.
teacher. And my sister then took one for the team and said to my mum, I wasn't going to say anything because it doesn't make any difference, but I have ADHD. Basically did a PowerPoint presentation on like how me and her present as women with ADHD. And my mum was like, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense now. She has ADHD. She's just in denial about it. Sorry, Julie. And yeah, as me and my sister were doing all this research while we were waiting for my diagnosis, that the old chestnut of special interest about being neurodivergent, sort of learn everything we possibly can. My sister was like, I think you might be autistic. And I was like, no, I'm not, because my knowledge of autism was Chinese autism and people who have like physical issues as a result of their autism. And I was like, no, that's not me. But went off and did a little bit of research, learned a bit more, and I was like, oh shit, I think I'm autistic. And all of a sudden, my entire life made sense. So that constant push and pull in my brain that just will not shut up of like, do this thing, no, do this thing. And then just being stuck, like I felt today, with I've got like, I know it's a silly like internet thing of like, inside you are two wolves, but inside you are two wolves. One of them's autistic and one of them's ADHD, and they're arguing all the fucking time. So yeah, I didn't get my diagnosis until I was 36, so that was 3 years ago. And even though I started the diagnosis journey for ADHD first, I got diagnosed with autism quicker because there was like a NHS funded but sort of standalone autism assessment service as well. So the process with them from first appointment to diagnosis was about 3 months, I think.
Oh, wow.
It was very quick. But that in itself was a big like existential crisis thing of like, am I making this up? Have I just like imagined that I do all these things? And I got worried that I wasn't autistic enough because my friend had 3 assessment appointments. I had to have a 4th assessment appointment, a physical one in the room with somebody. And I was like, well, my friend didn't have to do that. She must be more autistic than me. Maybe I'm not autistic enough to be autistic. And the woman said as soon as I got there, she knew I was autistic before she'd even done the whole assessment. And so that was nice to have that validation. But I didn't get my ADHD diagnosis because slow service is slow until December 2025? No. Yeah, 24. It was a long time after. So around now it will be 3 years since being diagnosed. I should find out when the anniversary was, because I had a party on the 1st anniversary to celebrate being autistic for a whole year, even though I've been autistic my whole life. Sorry, that was really rambly. Hello.
No, that's all right. That's exactly what I asked you to do. So the autism diagnosis, interestingly, do you recollect or did the person tell you what it was that made them say, oh yeah, she's autistic, before anything else had happened?
When she came in, no, when I went in, we had got some stairs, and I think she got a bit late, but I went on like a rant about the fact that all the people driving in front of me were driving really slow, and I had somewhere important to be, and they were making me slow, and did they not realise the impact they were having on me? And then she was like, oh, right, okay. And then I noticed she had a tattoo on her foot of a little jigsaw puzzle piece, and I was like, oh, you have a tattoo of a jigsaw puzzle piece. Are you autistic? Or have you got somebody in your family? And I just like started whittering on. And then when we sat down then in the room, and I had to do those silly activities, like make a story with a peg and a load of random shit. I was thinking, oh no, I'm being too normal here. And when I read the notes up on the section, I was like, fuck it, no. She picked up so many traits from it. And yeah, it's weird. Like, obviously they know what to look for, and I thought, I'm not gonna get a diagnosis out of this. I'm masking too much. I'm being too normal here. But the amount of things she picked up on that I was doing subconsciously was hilarious. Like she was trying to ask me questions and I didn't even notice because I was too busy info dumping at her about a special interest. I picked that from a tiny, tiny, tiny part of a picture that she showed me and actually talked about. So I was like, oh, okay, I didn't even notice that she was trying to take me off topic. I was just talking at her about something.
What went through your mind when you were given that validation? Actually rewind. You got your autism diagnosis, and then how long after that did you get your ADHD diagnosis?
It was a year and a half. It was a long time.
Okay.
Just because it took such a long time at every stage, from like the initial disco one, I think the paperwork thing, and then you know it just took a long time to go through all the steps. And when I had my final appointment, even though I'd had all my like assessment phone calls with all the millions of questions and things, I wasn't actually sure if I'd been given a diagnosis because the guy was just talking and he didn't go, "Oh, you have ADHD." So I ended up having to like phone my doctors a couple of days later and say, "Is there a note on like a letter or a note or something on my file from this guy?" And they're like, "Yeah, why?" And I was like, "This says for ADHD on this." They actually didn't tell me. I had to find out that way because he didn't say you have ADHD. So again, that was something else that I got like in my head about because he didn't say it that bluntly to me. He just sort of started talking about medication and things, and I was like, well, if he's talking about meds, I must have ADHD, but he hasn't actually said you have ADHD. So I was just really confused by the whole thing.
Oh, that's bollocks, isn't it? I mean, we need information to be quite clear. And if of all the places to have a vague situation where no one's telling you the actual black and white of the situation, it's there for fuck's sake. And to go to an assessment and not be told at the assessment what the outcome of the assessment is, that's mental.
Yeah, and like it's so funny because obviously I had to wait so much longer for the ADHD one than the autism one, that every now and then I could remember and I'd be like, I haven't heard anything and it's been like a year and a half. So I phone up and be like, "Hello, am I still on the waiting list?" They'd be like, "Yeah, still on the waiting list. We'll let you know." And they'd say sometimes like, you know, "If you haven't heard anything in another 6 months, let us know." And it's like, I'm gonna forget in another 6 months to let you know. Please ring me or send me a letter or something. So the fact that I felt like I had to keep chasing up all the time as well for a service that is supposed to be for people who forget things a lot. And I have been offered various courses and different like support things, and they've been so woefully inadequate for neurodivergent people. It is beyond belief. I ended up sending the one. It was like a living with ADHD course, and it was supposed to be like 6 weeks, and it was practical skills and tools and weight. And the information they gave beforehand and the way it was all set up was just so bad that I ended up sending them a massive email because I couldn't get to where I needed to go because of the venue. The information they sent wasn't good enough. Sat nav wasn't working. I drove around for 45 minutes, had an absolute meltdown because I couldn't get to the location. And I was trying to phone them to say, I can't get here. What do I do? They weren't answering the phone. So in the end, I just turned around and went home. And I managed to get through to someone to say, "Look, what you've emailed is so shit that I can't get to the course. I've had an absolute meltdown over the fact that I haven't been able to get here. I've wasted, I drove 45 minutes to get to this place, and then I turn around and drive back. So it was like nearly 2 hours I was out of the house. I ended up sending them a massive email being like, considering this course is for neurodivergent people, you've neglected to think about the needs of the neurodivergent people. And they were like, "Oh, well, we just assumed most of the people would come on the bus." And I was like, well, I live in a town 45 minutes away. I am able to drive, and I'd rather drive than get a public transport because I've got my own little space. I left with plenty of time to get in nice and early and find it. But because the sat nav couldn't, it was basically like a venue that was like inside the park, but you wouldn't let us drive into the park, and it was on the main road. So it was like, how the fuck do I get it? And there was nothing on the information. It said on there, like, this is where it is, it's near this bus stop. So there was no information there about like, well, how do you get it by car? And they said, when they just come back to me, they were like, "Oh yeah, well, we assumed most people local, so they'd know. And I said, well, my address is on my information. You can see I live 45 minutes away. I don't come to this town. I don't know anything about it. How do you expect me to know? And I never did the course because I was just so upset after that like first experience. I was just like, no, thank you, I'm not coming. And if you do like an online one at home, I'll do that. But I'm not going. I was a mess, like hysterical, and sort of trying to drive at the same time, which is not optimal. So to like pull over and have a little calm down. So yeah, it's weird how things aren't set up for us even after we've got a diagnosis.
When stuff like that happens to me, I start to analyze it and start to question whether it's part of the test or part of the course. You know, like if I was going to that course and I found it really difficult to get there, I'm like, I wonder if this is part of it. Yeah, like if you get here, you've passed. The first test is getting here. Like when I had my autism assessment, at the clinic I went to, the first thing that happened when I went into the room was the guy sat down and the lights were off, and I just said, "Can I turn the lights on, please?" He's like, "Yeah, if you want."
Failed. You put the big light on.
Right. He's like, yeah, if you want to. So I was like, okay. So I turned the lights on, and I thought, fuck, that he's going to tell me I'm not autistic because I don't mind having the light on. But the opposite was the case. It's like, I don't want to sit in a fucking dark room. People turn the light on when you come into a room. That's just what you do. But I was thinking that everything was part. I was analysing every part of it, thinking, oh, this is going to be part of it. This is going to be part of the test. He's going to write down something about you turning the light on, isn't he? Yeah. Well, that sucks. So going back to actually getting the diagnosis, we'll go back to the autism diagnosis. What changed for you that day? You know, what I'm always interested to hear about people's processes from getting that information, you are autistic, and then the aftermath of that for the days and weeks that follow. What happens when you're presented with that? So in your case, what happened?
It gave me that validation that I needed, that once I'd sort of learned about autism and ADHD and the intersection of AuDHD, I knew that everything made sense for why my entire life I felt like an alien, that I wasn't a human. I just would feel like I ended up here and I didn't know what anyone was doing and why they were doing it. And straight away, just having that, yes, you're autistic phone call, I was in the job that I was working in at the time, sort of like answered the phone at my desk, and I was like, oh my god, and like got up and ran out and was crying. But I was just so relieved because I was so scared they'd say, no, you're not autistic, and then what would happen then? Like, what's wrong with me if I'm not autistic? What's wrong with me?
Right.
And I was so scared that would be what the outcome would be, but it wasn't, thankfully. So I was just so validated and started the process. I started very slowly, like the process of unmasking, because I was like, I know I'm AuDHD, but that was what I needed to have the permission, I guess, to go, oh, fuck this. I am being who I am. I'm doing what I want to do, and not performing anymore to try and be normal and fit in with everybody. That did not really go down well. Lots of people, I know, like people talk about this with people on the episode before, about like you become more autistic, you become more ADHD, and all of a sudden people are like, well, you always used to be able to do that, or you always used to cope okay with this. And it's like, you don't know how much mental and physical energy it took to be okay, or I would be okay at that thing. So I just stopped being okay, and people found that uncomfortable. The job that I was working in, I did tell them when I started that I might have some appointments because I was going through autism and ADHD. I didn't tell them in the interview because I didn't have a diagnosis to disclose. But once I started, I was like, I might have some appointments. And yeah, they got annoyed at me when I had my diagnosis. Like, one of the things they said to me was like, well, you didn't tell us about that at the start. And it's like, well, would you more have given me the job? Because you can't do that. And they even said to me in the interview that they liked how like crazy I was because it was a very casual interview, very chatty. We were just, chatting shit basically, whilst also talking about the job. And they were like, "Oh, you'll fit in perfect. You're everyone's bonkers," kind of thing. Like, we're all mad here. And I was like, "Oh, just you wait." Um, and quite quickly, I found it overstimulating as a job. I loved the job itself. It was perfect for someone like me because it had a routine. You would do the same thing, the same time every day, but within those individual tasks, it would change every day. So I knew what I had to do, but there was always something to keep me interested. And part of it was investigating errors. I felt like a little detective. I was having such a nice time. And like every time I would find the error, I'd be like, yes, I am a genius. And it just scratched something in my brain. But the work environment was incredibly overwhelming. It was always like too cold or too hot with the aircon. There were fluorescent lights. There were a million conversations going on at once. Where they sat me, I would by the door to the room to HR, so there were people back and forth, back and forth, back and forth all the time. And also, I was in the eye line of like where the kitchen was on our floor, so there were constantly people who were just constantly distracted and overwhelmed and overstimulated. And yeah, I started just saying to people, actually, can I have a bit more accommodation? Because I have my diagnosis now. I feel emboldened to ask you, please, can I wear headphones at my desk? Please, can I sit somewhere more quiet? And I remember going to the HR lady and saying, what accommodations can you offer for me to make things easier? And they were like, I don't know, what do you want? And I was like, well, I don't know. I've not been autistic before. I don't know what I'm allowed to ask for. And they did. They bought me some headphones and they moved my desk. But the more I got distressed and upset on a daily basis because of the environment and just how fucking everyone, not everyone, they were a handful of nice people, but a lot of them were absolute bastards. They were so neurotypical and focused on themselves and their own advancement in work, looking important. They would throw the job hierarchy at me all the time, and I'd be like, I don't give a shit that that guy's the CEO. Like, he spoke to me like shit. Like, I don't care. And I wouldn't lick the arse of my senior managers. I talked to them the same as everybody else, and they didn't like that. And I put a target on my head by allowing myself to be more vocal about my feelings. And they fired me in the end. They said that it was under poor performance as part of my probation period, but my line manager, she fought for me to have an extension on my probation, and they gave me another 3 months. They said, you can have another 3 months, and we will, excuse me, we'll do an action plan with you to get your performance up to a point where you can meet all of the targets. And I was like, right, yeah, thank you, appreciate that. And I kept saying to them, the working environment has affected me and it's distracting me, and that's why I'm not working as fast as I could do. But also, I'm working as fast as I can, making sure I get everything right. I don't have to make mistakes in the job in finance. So if you make a mistake, it's a big mistake. We were dealing with like transfers of like hundreds and thousands of pounds, millions of pounds at times. I didn't want to make a mistake. So I said, either I do it fast or I do it good and right and a little bit slower. Like, it's just, you got to decide what you want from me. And 3 weeks into my 3 month extension, they said, you're not hitting your target. We're going to let you go. But every day for that 3 weeks, I asked them for the action plan and what my targets were so I could see, so I knew I was working towards, and there'd always be an excuse. Oh, I can't log in on this computer in this meeting room. Oh, so-and-so's taking it to adjust something. There's always excuses. And the day they fired me, I just knew all day. We pick up on everything, don't we? We know, we pick up on those microaggressions, those tiny little body language changes. I knew. And I said to one of the girls, I'm getting fired this afternoon. She was like, don't be that. And I was like, no, they're going to fire me this afternoon. I know. And it was month end, and it was the first month that I got all of the reports I had to do for month end in maybe 3 months, that I got them done before the deadline. And I was so proud of myself. I got all of the work done for the day that I needed to do. And I was just like, yes, I fucking nailed this today. But whilst also knowing they were going to fire me. And they didn't invite me to a catch-up meeting until after the point that I'd given them all of my month-end reports. All of a sudden, they needed a meeting. And I sat down in the room with the HR lady, who was very nice, very supportive. But ultimately, her job was to protect the business, not me. And I said, you guys are going to fire me now, aren't you? And she was like, no. Well, wait for your manager. We need to have a chat. And I was like, no, I know you're going to. And she walked in, sat down, and was like, yeah, so we're letting you go. You can stay until the end of the day if you want to. And we're going to pay you like 3 weeks gardening leave. And I just went, fuck you. I said, I fucking knew you were gonna fire me. I said, you waited until I finished all of my work for the day and submitted all my month-end reports, and then you scheduled this meeting. And they were like, no, we weren't sure if we could get a meeting room, all these things. So I was like, bullshit. I said, I'd known all day that you were gonna fire me. So thanks for that. I'm going. And just walked in and got all my stuff from my desk, and like I stormed back to my desk and started like packing stuff up, and people were like, Sam, what are you doing? I was like, I've been fired. They were like, I was like, no, they fired me. And the one girl I said to that morning, and she was like, did they actually fire you? I was like, yeah, they just told me that I fired. She was like, why have they fired you for? And I said, poor performance, apparently. And like the boy who's been training me and shadowing me and working with me was like, you're great. You picked this up quicker than I did. You picked this up quicker than that I did. You're great at this job. But they just didn't like me because I challenged their hierarchy. I called them out when they'd say, you say things sometimes that are inappropriate in a business environment. You shouldn't be saying that. And I say, well, how am I supposed to gauge what is appropriate when the other day this line manager said this in front of everybody? So I thought what I said was much lower than that on like a inappropriate level. And they say, oh, well, you can't say this and you can't say that. And I pressed them up to each other. The managers would say things like, oh, it's not a toxic work environment. There's none of that going on. And I said, yesterday, when she was working from home, you said this about her and slagged her off. And then last week, she said this about you. And I just repeated everything that everyone would say because they didn't think I could hear them and they didn't think I would listen. I was taking everything in. And I would regurgitate it to them when they didn't like that at all. And yeah, that's why they fired me under the guise of poor performance. So like, yeah, that taking... I had my diagnosis in August, I got fired in October, because I was happy to have a diagnosis, but having that permission to behave more in the way that I needed to feel comfortable in myself led to me getting fired. Because I was working in an office environment with a bunch of normal people who, at first, they all thought I was brilliant. They were like, oh my gosh, she's so quirky, she's so weird. And then got to the point where, like, some of them I was friends with, and we would have lunch together, and people would say, oh my god, this one girl, she doesn't like anybody, she doesn't talk to anybody in the kitchen, she doesn't make small talk with anybody, she never goes out for lunch with anybody, but she's hanging out with you, like, what the heck? And I was like, I don't know, I'm just nice and cool, I guess. And then she decided overnight one day she didn't like me anymore. Don't know what it was. And then everyone else slowly started not liking me anymore. And they were a little team of like, not new. I don't think any of them were, well, maybe one of them, but I don't think they were neurodivergent. There was a little group that were sort of like on the edges of all of the teams. They didn't want to buy into the bullshit. They didn't want to join in. And they were all absolutely fuming when I got fired. And apparently, like, the atmosphere in the office the next day, nobody was talking. Nobody would talk to any of the senior managers because they were so upset that they fired me. So like, all the senior team were all like, so they, like, with each other, but all the other teams, they were all just so mad because they were so upset that they just fired me out of nowhere. But like I told them, I knew. I knew they were firing me that day. I just knew. And they couldn't fire me for being autistic, but they could fire me for poor performance that they couldn't prove because they never gave me a plan. Or like I said, I don't know how you can mark me on these things because you've never given me like KPIs of like this has to be done this way, this guidelines, this needs to be done by 9:30, but there was never any sort of monitoring of that to be like, okay, so the last month you hit that target 90% of the time. There's none of that, but when it was convenient to fire me, it was really important, but no proof. So that sort of, as happy as I was to have my diagnosis, it did sort of bring my world crashing down around me, in that I had sort of recently become single. The relationship I'd been in for like 13 years, been married for nearly 10 years, ended because I just couldn't do it anymore. Again, part of the burnout and overwhelm I was dealing with. I was a single parent now, and I own a house, and I've got to still do all those grown-up things that you're supposed to do, but I just been fired. Like, what the fuck was I going to do? And like, real talk, I was phoning up the local hospital for fat people and saying, I wanted to see if you could have walk-ins, like, could I admit myself? Because I was just so, I just didn't know what to do. Didn't know what to do with myself. They didn't answer the phone, and I was like, shit, what do I do now? Because I phoned my mum, and I had to go and sit like a non-verbal little test on my mum's sofa because I didn't make any plans to end my life, but I just needed to be dead. And I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do because I can't carry on like this anymore. And it was really difficult, really difficult. And it wasn't because of the autism, but because of the way I guess society, people had reacted to it and then getting fired because of disclosing that I was autistic and allowing myself to behave more autistic, lost me my job. And then the security of, my mortgage, and can I feed my kid now? Can I keep clothes on my back and put the heating on as a direct result of getting my diagnosis, I guess. It was a lot.
Okay, oh. Yeah. I mean, that employer was fully taking the piss.
Oh, they were awful. And that team has the biggest staff turnover rate in the entire organisation because they're horrible, horrible bastards to everybody. Like, the one girl started while I was there, and she left halfway through the day and never came back because it was just such a shit, horrible work environment. She just knew she didn't want to be there.
It's the agreeing to give you extra time and then not giving you that extra time and then not giving you what you needed to do what you needed to do in that extra time. And you're screwed as well because you're still on probation, so you couldn't really do much about it. I mean, if from a kind of unfair dismissal point of view, at least, and they probably knew that. But they also knew that they also knew that they needed to give a reason and they needed to manufacture one. That's the thing that always gets me because people talk about how are we not allowed to not hire somebody because of a disability, or you're not allowed to fire someone because of a disability. No, you're not allowed to say that that's why you're doing it. But that doesn't stop people from doing it. They just don't say that that's why they've done it. There's no difference. They're still doing it. Like they're just finding another reason.
My team was carrying like 5 vacancies. There were supposed to be 3 people doing my job when there were 2 of us doing it. And they currently had a vacancy for it because we had too much work to be able to do it. And if that doesn't tell you that it wasn't surely somebody who could improve over time with a bit more like focus and training and some accommodations would be better than having a brand new person in and having to train them up to speed. But, it wasn't anything to do with me and my autism. It was about poor performance. And it's like, well, if you're carrying vacancies, you can't afford to be getting rid of people who are working a bit too slow. It wasn't a mistake, it was speed. And that was literally it. My poor performance was speed related, which is so silly.
So you obviously went through a dark period after that. And then what? What happened?
I didn't know what to do. I was sort of just like, shit. I knew I was getting like 2 or 3 weeks, I can't remember now, 2 or 3 weeks like gardening leave. So I knew I was going to have like a couple of weeks more pay, but I just didn't know what to do. I was like, I know I need a job, so I need to pay my bills, I need to feed my kids, I need to feed myself. Um, but I genuinely don't know what I can do. I know I can't work in an office again. I cannot put myself mentally through that overstimulation. I was, fully in a burnout period that I've been in for a good year and a half. And I was, real bad by this point. And I was like, I just can't. I remember talking to my mum, who was amazing and very supportive, but who's sort of saying, well, you just got to do whatever job you get. Like, you're going to have to make it work. And she kept sending me jobs all the time. What about this one? What about this one? And they were like good, nice jobs. But I have to keep going back and going, well, I could do this job, but it's office-based and it is an hour away. I can't deal with the commutes anymore. I can't deal with sitting in an office anymore. So I just had many excuses, but I felt justified in my excuses at this point because I could say, well, the way my brain works and the way I am right now, I cannot cope with that. And I was really lucky that one day my parents were worried about me. They took me out for the afternoon and we went to a little coffee shop and had like coffee and cake. And whilst we were there, my parents had a text message from they are the directors of like the local village hall, and they had a text message from the cleaner saying, "Handing in my notice. I'll work a week, but I'm not going back to work." And they were like, "Oh bloody hell, we've lost the cleaner." And I said, "I'll be a cleaner." They were like, "What, really?" And I was like, "Yeah, I need money." And it's one of the best things I've ever done. Because it allows me to still get up not every day, but still get up 5 days a week and go out to work. But I mostly work by myself. Got my headphones on. I work for a couple of hours and then I've got the rest of the day to recover or go out and do something. And I have picked up quite a couple of like private clients every now and then as well. And they're sort of like safe, trusted people because I don't want to just go into any old person's home. It's friends of friends will say, "Oh, so and so needs an extra clean. Can you come 2 hours and give the carpet a good hoover and clean the bathrooms?" And I'm like, "Yeah, great." So I sort of do a bit of ad hoc work when I've got the energy, basically. And to mention, because I don't think anyone else has mentioned this, but I do receive benefits. When I told the job centre that I'd been fired, I was like, I don't know what to do, and I mentioned that I had autism, they were like, "Oh, well, we'll give you." They were so nice and positive about it. They were like, "Oh, we'll give you an assessment. You may have limited capability for work." And I was like, I honestly, genuinely feel like right now I have limited capability for work. I really do. I can't imagine going to work full time because of how dreadful I feel on a daily basis. And they just like that, just give me this assessment. They went, "Yeah, there you go. Here's some benefits. You're allowed to work part time," which point I'd already started doing cleaning. And I was like, "Oh, this could actually work really well for me." And I do struggle. Over the years, I've had huge amounts of debt from the AuDHD impulsivity of going, "I'm going to put this on my credit card, I'm going to put this on my credit card." Then you try and get a grip on it by doing a balance transfer. You're like, "I'll pay this off before the interest kicks in," and then you forget and spirals. So I've had loads of problems with debt over the years. But being thrown into a situation where I am surviving week by week to, do my food shop and things, I can't spend money like I used to. So it has helped me to that kind of spending. But I do still do things like I did today and go to the reuse centre and I spend £15 on stuff that I didn't need. I'll just buy less stuff when I go food shopping next to sort of like balance that out. So I do struggle week by week. It's not the oh, these people on benefits, they're sitting around in the house all day with all their money. Look at them buying this, look at them buying that. I still work because if I didn't work, I wouldn't be able to buy food. I'm behind on my gas and electric bills because it's extortionate, even when you don't put the heating on because you can't afford to. Like if I'm in the house on my own, if my kid is with their dad, I don't put the heating on. I just put as many jumpers on as I can in the winter because I can't afford to put it on. So I'm still making sacrifices. I'm not living some kind of like lavish lifestyle because I'm on benefits. And I try and talk about that as much as I can because I think a lot of people are so angry about benefits and demonizing benefits. And there's a lot of conversation in the media at the moment about all these people with ADHD getting benefits. It's ridiculous. It's throwing too much strain on the system. And what someone said to me, which made me feel less guilty about receiving benefits, was it's not a handout, it's an equalizer. And I was like, okay. And that made me feel a little bit more comfortable because I feel guilty all the time that I'm having money to be able to like pay my bills and feed my child. And I don't take the piss and stay home. I still go out and work. And I'm registered self-employed and I have to do all the things that self-employed people do, like submit in my expenses and putting my earnings in and doing all my tax stuff. Because if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be able to afford to eat. I just wouldn't. And also I don't want to, as much as I don't care what society thinks, I also don't want to be seen by society as double scum, benefits, person, all these really negative things that people say about people who receive benefits. But actually, I can't fucking leave my house most days of the week at the moment. I should be starting work at 8:30. Most of the time I get there is 11 o'clock. Today I got there at 11 o'clock. I couldn't actually clean because there was a class playing. I sat in the car for 45 minutes, just stuck. I didn't know what to do because I was like, I've come here to work and I knew when I came here I wouldn't be able to work because there would be people here. So I don't know why I'm here. I guess I'll go home, but I just sat there for 45 minutes and like that has such a knock-on impact on everything in my day. And then like I said to you before we started recording, I ended up then telling the person that I was supposed to be going to their house to give them a quick clean, I can't come because I was just stuck. And I try and talk about these things as much as possible because I think people just think of people with ADHD as like, oh, they're so silly, they keep losing their keys, they keep losing their phones. But it's fucking debilitating. This is me medicated and I still cannot get out of bed. I can't just get out, shower and leave. Fanning around doing all sorts of stuff. So I'm like, oh, I need to do this, oh, I need to do this. Or I will sit and just completely lose 45 minutes dissociating or sitting in my car and there's no thoughts in there, I'm just scrolling. And I lose so much time every single day to just being stuck. And It is disabling. It is a disability and I've had a lot of like internalized ableism about that, and that's something I've been working on with my therapist. Of like, you actually have something wrong with your brain. Your brain does not work in the same way as other people, and I've got lots of like physical comorbidities as well. That of course, because I'm a woman, I can't get diagnosed. But I probably would qualify for like the physical side of the disability stuff if I got all those things diagnosed as well, because I struggle every day. And again, that's because I'm autistic. There are so many comorbidities of physical things like Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, POTS, loads of things that are very common in neurodivergent people that then affect me physically as well as mentally. And I'm just so fucking tired all the time. If I miss my ADHD meds one day, I don't feel like I've got any lack focus, but I physically cannot get through the day without having a nap. Before I started on the meds, every day I'd have to have a nap for an hour to 2 hours, and I'd still be exhausted for the rest of the day because I physically couldn't keep my eyes open. And the methylphenidate has helped with that. but I don't feel like I've got any energy or focus. I just manage to get through the day without needing a nap, which I don't understand how that works, but okay, I'll take it.
It's so, I always, I'm accused, I think I've mentioned this before, but I'm always accused of playing devil's advocate, but I think that's just because I like to try and have a broad way of thinking about things, and I like to see things from every point of view to understand it better. So I try to think why people are the way they are, excuse me, when it comes to those sorts of attitudes around ADHD and autism, those attitudes of, you know, being a benefit scrounger or you know, pull your socks up, get a grip, you know, or the old man up. Just these things that people say. It's so fucking difficult to explain. I think that's part of the problem. It's so difficult to explain. It's so difficult for neurotypical people to understand it properly. Unless you've lived it, you have no way of understanding it, because it's invisible, because you're looking at somebody who can do most of the things that most people can do, right? We can do it, but there is such a cost to it. It's not like, you know, if you had a physical disability, or if I had higher support needs, in a way it would be easier for people to understand. But because you can speak to me and you can see me, and for the most part you wouldn't have a fucking clue that I have a disability, it's so hard for those people to then accept that there are things that I just cannot do. You know what I mean? Because it's so it's not tangible for them. It's barely tangible for me most of the time, because I'm still trying to understand it myself. I've still got imposter syndrome. I've got fucking diagnoses coming out of my arse, but I'm still questioning it every day. I still feel, well, obviously I must be pretending. I'm rattling like a fucking castanet with all the medication that I take, and I spend so much of my time absolutely just floored with fatigue, and I'm thinking so much, my brain is tired, everything is tired, because everything is so much harder, everything takes so much more energy. Just because I can do it, it doesn't mean it's easy to do it. Everything comes at a price, and I'm barely holding on in terms of working full time by the skin of my teeth. I'm holding on by the skin of my teeth at the moment. Luckily, I'm in a position where I've got an employer who is nothing like the one that you have experience of, because they, you know, they're not perfect, but they are making allowances and making reasonable adjustments, and they are giving me a bit of leeway. But I'm so fucking tired, Sam. Jesus Christ. I think that's the thing that's the prevailing feeling. I'm just so tired. I can't. And I run out of battery so quickly. You know, if you catch me in the right, if all the stars align and everything's just as it should, you know, everything's perfect, conditions are perfect, I will basically outperform everybody at work for a couple of hours. That's all you'll get out of me, though. But there are some days I can barely keep my eyes open all day, because everything is just running at 100 miles an hour all day, every day. And because we are sponges, you can't turn it off. You can't turn off the fucking stimulation. You can't just say, I'm not going to listen to that noise. You're not going to... It's there. Every single fucking sound, every single smell, everything you see, everything. You're just being... It's like all your pores are open all the time, and you're just taking all of this. And you're expected to still walk through the world and do other stuff when you're just being bombarded from every single angle. It's so loud. How are you supposed to do it? And that's what I don't... So on one hand, I sympathise in a way with people who don't understand it, because it's impossible to understand unless you've lived it. But also, please just try to think that there's a bit more to it than what's on the surface. And also, look, I live my life on social media a lot of the time now. It comes with the territory with what I'm doing. But yeah, there's a lot of shit on social media about how quirky and funny it is to be neurodivergent. And look, there are certain aspects of it that can be somewhat amusing sometimes. Yeah, I lose shit, but there's so much more
I get
to
really distressed by losing stuff, because I get so frustrated that I'm just like, I can't believe I fucking lost this thing again. And I just get really distressed by it. And like, outwardly to people, I just think, like, that's what it's like, it's funny. And it's like, oh, you're so quirky and random. Oh my God. Like, someone said to me yesterday, she's like, oh my God, Sam, you're so funny. And I was like, it's the autism. Because I'm just so like deadpan and blunt with how I deliver things. I do use a lot of sarcasm, but a lot of the time I will just outright say things to people. And I'm not trying to be mean, and there's like, tongue in cheek, I'm having a bit of, being a bit cheeky. But people, I think I do definitely rub people up the wrong way. And she was like, oh, you're just funny. And I was like, and the other answer I always give is, it's all trauma. And she was like, do you not think you're funny? I was like, no, I think I'm fucking hilarious. Like, I make myself laugh so hard all the time. I think I'm so funny, but I was like, most people don't think I'm funny. Like, they just sort of go, and like nervously laugh at me. But it's like saying about like being tired, what compounds that issue is constant explaining to people why you're so tired, which then makes you more tired. And like even my own mum, like I said, she's fantastic and she's so supportive. But I say things to her all the time, like, oh yeah, I'm not going to that. Like we both sing in a choir, and I'll happily go and do a concert. But if we do a booking at a party or a wedding, I'm a flat no. There's no conversation there. It's just, no, I'm not doing a party or a wedding. But I will come to a concert where I know we'll get up on stage and they'll sing, and then we'll go home. Great. And when I say, like, oh, I'm not doing that, she's like, oh, why? I'm like, I'm just not, I can't do that. She's like, well, some people might say that they see you doing X, Y, Z. So, like, I'm very lucky I get invited to, like, media events and press nights and different things. They're very overwhelming. I put my little mask on, and I sort of, I stand in front of the photographers and have my photo taken. I chat to people. I'll, have a microphone put in my face and I'll say something. But then I get home and I'm like, oh, like I'm so tired. And I have to like explain to my mum all the time. I'm like, one, a lot of that is masking. But two, if I am going out of my way to go to London for an event or drive up wherever I'm driving to and put myself through an insanely busy event, it is because it is related to my special interest, and I am able to tolerate so much more when I'm doing something that brings me joy. And trying to explain that to people is fucking exhausting. Like I said to my mom, I was like, how do you not understand this yet? And she was like, no, not me, but like some people might think. And I'm like, well, I don't care what other people think. I care what you think. And I've explained to you why I can do this, but I can't do this. So I was like, I don't give a fuck what fucking Linda thinks. Like, I don't care. And I know my mum is from a generation where people do care more about what other people think. So I think she worries more about what other people will think of me for not doing something than I care. Does that make sense? And just constantly having to explain to people why I can't do things is exhausting. And I do feel like an idiot being like, oh, I'm just really tired because my brain's been thinking all day. And people are like, okay, I've been thinking all day too. And I'm like, have you though? Have you been thinking a million things at the same time? Does it sound like a whole bunch of bees inside your head? Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, I've reached a point in my life now where I don't feel the need to explain anymore, and I feel very fortunate about that because I am an over-explainer. I am a people pleaser. I've talked about how much of a people pleaser I am in the past, but I'm far more likely. I think I'm learning to prioritize myself, and that's the word I wrote down when I wrote down selfish earlier before we started, because there's a fine line, but it's working out what that line is between being selfish and protecting your interests. I'm not a selfish person, but I am learning to be kind to myself, and sometimes being kind to yourself means you might have to be sub-optimal in terms of the friend that you are to somebody, or the partner you are to somebody, or the employee you are to somebody. But I just say no, and I don't feel the need to explain it. And it's been such an important stage to get to. to be unapologetic about who I am and what I am, and also just to not feel like, oh, I don't want to let this person down, I don't want to let that person down. Trev, do you want to come to this thing? No.
Yeah, I'm getting better at saying no when I'm asked, rather than saying yes and then having no intention of going and then making up an excuse. Like, I am better now, just going no. And I know it pisses people off. Like, I appreciate being asked, but a load of people in my family are doing like a little trip. They're going to London on a bus trip. I can deal with buses, not bus trips. They're very stressful. And it was a girls' trip, and we'd be like going to see a show and going for drinks and dinner. And I was like, thanks so much, but I hate this thing that you've invited me to. Also, it would be like way too much for me. I'd be like, it's too much. And they were like, okay, no problem. And then I felt the need to like further be like, so that they don't just think I'm just being a bitch and being like, no, I don't want to come to your thing. I'd be like I said, oh, you know, the majority of my socializing now is going to the cinema with people and not talking to them back in the dark. And they were like, okay. And I just felt a bit awkward then, because I was like, I want you to understand why I'm saying no. I'm not saying no because I don't want to spend time with you. I'm not saying no because I think you're a dickhead or anything. I don't want people, as much as I don't want to hear what people think, I don't want people to be upset.
Yeah.
As a result of something I said or done. And I know what I do. And like, I am absolutely blessed to have the best friend that I have. She's AuDHD as well, undiagnosed, but peer reviewed. And we have the most beautifully understanding, amazing relationship. And like yesterday I said something to her being silly, and she was like, you really upset me saying that. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. She's like, I know you didn't, but I just need you to know that I was upset so that you don't say it again. And I'm like, okay. She's like, I love you so much. And I'm like, I love you so much. And that's how our relationship operates. Like, we don't need to be worried about whether the other one is mad or thinking stuff or is sad, because we'll tell each other. And I am absolutely blessed to have a circle of friends who are all neurodivergent. And like, that's one of the things I love about podcasting is I'm getting to talk to other neurodivergent people, whether it's because they're autistic and they've made a film and I'm like, wow, well done you, or whether it's somebody who, like you need to come on the podcast, wants to talk about their interest in horror as a neurodivergent person. And I'm getting to build like a comfortable network of neurodivergent people who just all get it. There's no shame when you're like, I can't do that. I can't do it today. And they're like, okay. Like you said earlier, I just can't. Like, that is enough. I can't, or I just can't is enough, so we understand exactly what I mean. And there's no trying to make anyone feel bad and be like, oh, come on, or come on, do this. It's just like, yeah, no problem. Let me know when you've got the spoons and we'll do something another time. And that is beautiful. And I know I am so, so lucky to have that. And a lot of my socializing is done over WhatsApp or Instagram messages, just sending each other like memes and silly posts and things, and be like, this is you, this is me. And everyone meets me where I am and they accept me for who I am. And that's beautiful. And that's why I will keep I don't know if that makes sense, not shouting about the fact that I'm neurodivergent, because it's brought me a lot of the people that are in my life now as a result of that. Just being excited on the internet about my special interests has given me so many incredible opportunities. And I know I'm talking so much, you can just tell me to shut up and wrap up your episode if you want to, but like, I get messages from people all the time who are like, how come you get invited to this thing? How come you get invited to this? And I'm like, I don't know. And I haven't got that many followers on Instagram. They've got more followers than me, but I get invited to things and they don't. And I'm like, I think it's just because I'm a feral, excited little gremlin who is genuinely so enthusiastic about horror or the play that, you know, one of my most exciting things in the world ever was getting invited to the press night for Ghost Stories. Ghost Stories is one of my favourite things in the world. I think that performance was my 6th time seeing it. But I got to stand on the red carpet and have my photo taken. Rishi Smith and Steve Pendergun were there. What was his name? Kevin Alden was there. There were all these people that I watch on TV and I love. And I was sat there alongside them like a peer. And And it's not because I've got a huge social media reach or because I've got sponsors or followers. It's because I'm genuinely fucking enthusiastic about other things, and I'm always honest. If I don't like something, I'll say it. And I'm conscious of hurting people's feelings. So I do decline to review things all the time, because if a big Hollywood movie is shit, I'm quite comfortable saying that movie was shit. But if there's somebody who's made a film with their friends and it's not very good, I don't want to put that out into the world, but I'm like, the film you worked so hard on is shit. Because I feel like that's bad karma for me, and that's not doing any justice to like the indie movie thing. But I just think I get these amazing opportunities that I have, and I've made the amazing friends and connections that I have just by being myself. And I know as a result of being myself, I've inspired other people to just be themselves. Numerous people have had their diagnosis as a result of me sharing my information, not my information, like my journey, my experiences on the podcast, on Instagram. Like, people have gone, oh, this sounds a lot like me. And numerous people have messaged me to tell me, I just thought I'd let you know I've had my diagnosis. I got myself referred because of you. And it makes me cry every time. And like, one friend regularly messages me to tell me how grateful she is that I was so open about my experiences, because she had her diagnosis as a result, and it's changed her life. Finally having that validation and understanding, I did that, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Being myself, it is beautiful. And sometimes it feels like a lot of responsibility, which is a weird thing to say. But if I can help one person go, oh, actually, I'm not broken, or I'm not an alien, or as my friend said to me earlier, my friend Charlie, who's also AuDHD, she said, I swear the world's just testing me today. Like, this is going to be the best episode of the Truman Show ever. Like, that feeling that you're on the Truman Show and everyone else knows what's going on apart from you. Like, it's just me being a feral yapper on the internet help anyone feel like less alone and more seen, then I feel like my work here is done.
That's it, and that's what I'm trying to do as well. And I'm finding, I haven't got the same kind of circle of friends as you.
You'll find them. You will find them. They will gravitate towards you, and they'll end up in your orbit. You know, that's how you find me.
That's it. I am finding them. I'm finding them by doing this, and I've never felt more comfortable in my life. I'm reclining so far in this chair, I'm almost lying down at this point.
You're gonna slide off any minute.
But it's just because I could listen to you talk all day, and I'm meeting people like you, and there's always that initial kind of first couple of minutes where it's a little bit awkward, but I've never felt more just like I'm meeting people who I'm already friends with almost, and we're just talking, and it's so easy to do because you get it and I get it, and we can just share notes, and because we understand, I think it's a bit of a catharsis about it. It's therapeutic to be able to talk to someone who gets it, because you don't have to do any of the other things that you have to do with everyone else, and it's less tiring, it's less exhausting. You know, I wouldn't be able to sit and talk to someone for nearly 2 hours in any other situation without being completely spent. I'm tired because it's been a long day, but I'm not tired from this conversation. This social interaction that we're having has not depleted me. No. And that's what I'm finding so beautiful about it, because I'm meeting people like you, making friends, and being able to, for the first time in my fucking life, just be able to have these conversations with absolutely no airs or graces about them whatsoever. And it's so great. I love it.
Yeah, you will. I think we all find each other. Like I mentioned Charlie earlier. I've known her husband for a little while, just with like podcasting stuff and like the horror community. And we just started chatting and clicked straight away. And then we were chatting all day, every day. And then all of a sudden, like, she had my number and we were WhatsApping. And we met up for the first time, just like we'd known each other our entire lives. And it was like, did we just become best friends? Like in Step Brothers. And
Step Brothers.
She's like such a close friend. And I didn't meet her for the first time until like April, maybe. I think I started talking to her in February. Met her for the first time April, May. And every single day we'll text each other morning and night night, love you. I mean, we've only known each other a couple of months, but our bond is so strong just because we're both AuDHD, we both get each other. There's no having to explain anything because it's just like, oh no, I know exactly what you mean. Like, oh, I know it sounds stupid when I say this, but I'm like, no, I know what you mean. You don't even need to explain that. Like, I know exactly that feeling. And I know we all perceive things differently, but there's just so much like shared experience, I think. And I know from making other neurodivergent friends that I taught them a lot about themselves and things in their past that I think because I've been diagnosed a lot longer than a lot of my friends, I think I'm a bit more like forthcoming with advice and things. And I'm like, wow, I think this thing in your past was actually this. And you didn't do anything wrong because this was you displaying a classic case of RSD, or this was a case of this. And they've gone, oh my God, you're right. And I am obnoxious with it. Like, I will give people like little therapy sessions. And if they don't want to listen to me, that's fine. Just say, shut up, Sam, and I'll shut up. But it's allowed me then to look back at things in my life that I've like beat myself up over for years because I'll give someone the most sage wisdom advice ever. And then I'll go, oh, that's quite similar to this situation I had years ago, and I've been torturing myself about it for years. But actually, what happened with them that I just told them that they don't need to worry about is exactly what happened to me, and I shouldn't worry about it either. And I've been able to let things go through these relationships and friendships I'm having, and it's really, really beautiful. And we just give each other the space to just do whatever we need to do. If we need to do that verbal processing and going through the same fucking story 10 times, we let each other do it because we know that the more we talk about that thing, the more we'll understand and the more it will become something that we can accept or dissect and work through. So, but you can't do that with neurotypical people. They just look at you like the amount of times I've got really upset because people have shared a story and I'm like, oh, I had something similar, and they're like, it's not all about you. And I'm like, I'm trying to show you that I understand your situation by sharing my story that is similar. And people get really annoyed and upset. Or like when people say, what do you do that for? And then I tell them what I did that for. And they're like, I don't want your excuses. And I'm like, you literally just asked me why I did that thing. Why don't you want the answer? And it's so fucking hard. So having the friends that I have, I am so lucky. And so many of my friends I was friends with years ago, we've lost touch. And then they go back in touch with me via social media. And they're like, oh my God, hi, how are you? And I'm like, oh my God, we haven't spoken for 20 years. And they go, guess what? I've got ADHD as well. I'm like, yeah, I know. Because I can look back at like how they were 20 years ago, and I know they've got ADHD. And, you know, they're all like, it's like when you lift up a rock, some of the little creatures will all run away and hide, and then some of them will wiggle and they'll congregate in the middle, and I feel like we're all the like worms that wiggle to the middle, and all the like little spiders and things scuttle off of the neurotypical people. I don't know where that example came from, but I quite like it.
Oh, I like it. No, I like that a lot. Sorry, I'm distracted. My cat's just turned up, and I was wondering if he was going to...
Hello, cat.
No.
What's his name? I forgot.
His name is Sam.
Oh, excellent name.
Let me get him. Come on.
Hi, baby.
Here's the baby. He's the baby. He's a baby. He doesn't want to play. Oh, he's got his t-shirt on. Look.
Oh, Bella likes to wear clothes. She'll go pick out her own clothes sometimes, and she's very fancy.
It's getting a bit late for him. I need to spend some time with him. I feel bad.
Oh, no. Sorry, I've spoke to you for a very long time. I talk to people rather than talk to them. No,
not at all. This is exactly what I wanted. I like creating a situation where I'll just say, here's a thing, and then you talk about it. And that's exactly what I want. And I really appreciate it. But I will wrap it up here, Sam, mainly because I need to start cooking my dinner. Yeah, but thank you so much. It's been so lovely to speak to you. It's been so interesting to hear your stories and your finding a little bit more about your hyperfixation. And we're going to talk about that on another occasion.
I'm on the podcast anytime.
Thank you. But yeah, take care. Thank you so much. We'll speak again soon, okay?
And just to say, before I do say bye, thank you to you for creating this space, because I think it's so important and hearing the stories from people from all different walks of life, parents of neurodivergent children and late diagnosed. I think we've all been late diagnosed, haven't we? But it's a beautiful, safe space for people to share sometimes really upsetting, horrible things, and it doesn't feel scary or horrible. So thank you for creating that space, and just for you being vulnerable and sharing your stories and stuff, like your episode about your dad. Like it resonated so much with me because I saw so much of the way I respond and react to things in the way you responded to things. And not to reduce you to gender or gender stereotypes, but it is so lovely to have a man be that vulnerable. And I feel like neurodivergent men are more likely to be that vulnerable. But thank you for creating this safe space and giving people a place that they can be honest and share, and that you can be honest and share as well. It's very much appreciated. Thanks. Bye.
Cheers. That was Sam Munster. Thank you very much, Sam, for taking the time to talk to me and share your story with me. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Now, I'd very much appreciate it if you were to follow Sam on her social media. Her Instagram handle is at sam.munster. There's also an Instagram page for her podcast Horror Hyperfixations, which is at Horror Hyperfixations. Within those you'll see links to her various other bits and pieces, the podcast itself and her other content, which is fantastic, so please check her out. Also, I'd appreciate it if you were to check me out at shoutybrain.com. As I said at the beginning, you'll find links to all of my stuff on there as well, so please do reach out and interact with me. I'm always looking for new guests for the podcast, and I do, keep my ear to the ground, but come to me, man. Whether it's yourself who you want to come onto the podcast, you've got a story to tell, or you've got someone else in mind, just give me a shout, either Instagram, or you can contact me directly through the website. Now, I hope you also enjoyed Sam the Goblin. For those who watched the video, he wasn't particularly feeling sociable that day. He was wearing a beautiful t-shirt though, so I hope you enjoyed the stripy little baby. Now, before I leave you, a special treat as a thank you for sticking around to the end. There's a new project I'm working on, a character called Minty 500, who is a tardigrade, a water bear, and he is a positive affirmations, feel-good kind of tardigrade. He is potentially autistic himself. I've written a song. I'm working on an animated video for it, which is going to be coming out on YouTube in the near future. So thank you very much for listening and watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'll be back next week, and here is a little snippet from Minty. Take care. Shouty brain.